I'm here with Mickebwoy. If you could introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are.
Hey guys, I'm Mickebwoy. Currently, I'm free agent in Valorant. I'm from Poland. I'm 21 years old. I've played for RIX, BDS, and Movistar Riders.
Nice. So obviously, like you said, you're 21. I'm 22. We've both, been playing games for a while. How did you first get into video games as a whole?
I think the first video game I played was COD 4, and I got introduced to it by my older brother.
Yeah.
He's 11 years older than me, and every time he left to school or whatever, I was stealing his PC and I was playing there. And this is I think the game that let's say got me into this whole gaming thing.
Yeah.
And the next one was obviously CS:GO. I mean, not obviously, but the
Yeah,
next one was
loads of people
CS:GO.
start out.
I started in 2014, which was also right after the Virtus Pro win and the huge
Yeah.
hype in Poland for that game, and I kept playing it mostly for fun, then trying in some tournaments, but without bigger achievements. And after I heard of Valorant, I asked some of my friend that is a streamer to give me a code if it's possible to start raids after first day of beta, and I'm playing Valorant since second day of beta that got released, and playing it till today, and enjoying it all the time.
Yeah, that's nice. I think it's important to always enjoy playing the game as well because, lots of people can get burnt out quite quickly. But my other question, actually, before we get into, some of the heavier stuff would be, how did you choose the name Mickebwoy? Because on the surface of it, I'm wondering where this name came from because it's like a little bit of a mixture of two names almost.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's very simple. It's again about my brother.
Okay.
His name in COD 4 that he was playing. I think he was playing in some tournaments, but didn't really take it too serious. Was Mario Boy because his name is Mario, and I just stole it honestly when I was 9 and kept it that way. It's pretty, I would say, old school, like the second part of my name. And a lot of people might not even get it how to read it because it's not too obvious, but I decided to keep it till today.
Yeah, I've heard, actually, my friend as well, he got his name from his older brother, and it was a mixture of two different things. So it's quite funny how you just kind of yoinked it and then went from there. But yeah, that's cool. So looking back at what you've achieved so far in Valorant, what is it that gives you the biggest drive to carry on competing, or what moments specifically stand out to you and say, yeah, this is where I belong, this is the esport I want to play in?
Every time I play any official, I'm just feeling this hunger that the hard. I think the hardest time for me is when I'm not competing, I'm not playing, which is actually now. Whenever I play, I remind myself after the game, either it's lose or either it's defeat or win. I remind myself why I'm doing this because I just love it. I love to compete. I don't think I would be playing the game if there was no competition, let's say just casually. I don't think that would be really my thing, but since there is competition, and tournaments all the time, I think this is my thing.
Yeah, and you said before as well how much you love to compete and how important that is to you. You also mentioned before how previously you were on BDS and then you moved to Movistar Riders from the first split to the second split of VRL. Going from the VRL in France to Spain and leaving BDS, what was that like?
I mean, I was a bit surprised about, let's say, how the things in BDS went. The play was really painful for us. We won the semi-final with OG, and then we were winning 2-0 in the BO5 final against S1, but we couldn't make it out. They were the better team that day, and I think my performance was pretty good, but the team decided that the communication was the biggest problem. The English barrier was the biggest problem, that decided on a French roster to go back to their roots. And then I started seeking into let's say other opportunities.
Yeah.
I got right after BDS, I got an offer from Vitality, but unfortunately, due to ruling of the leagues that you need to have player from this and this country, I couldn't sign there. at the like last week. So then Movistar Riders came to like my door, knocked on them, and I decided to join them and compete in Spain.
Yeah, and how do you think that the 3/5 rule in the next season of Challenger League, VRL, whatever you want to call it, is going to affect players like you, for example? You know, being a Polish player, perhaps not having a spot in the regional league in VRL East, and looking for opportunities in places like Spain, like France. You know, how can that affect someone in your position?
I would say it's affecting the teams, not really the players. I think like every team had to make a decision that they didn't want to, but they had to, like kicking some of their players because they are not from the country they need to be. And sometimes the organization doesn't have an opportunity to like switch leagues whenever they want. It's all about sponsors. It's all about the league admins and things like this. So I think it's mostly painful for the leagues and maybe even for the viewership because it's now a bit harder to make like a super team for
Yeah.
some organizations, and sometimes we are right now we are in the point I think where like you have better player but he's from, let's say, a country that doesn't fit you rule wise, so you
Yeah.
need to pick a worse option.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean, right? Teams in this period of time as well have been making a lot of decisions to change their rosters with players specifically as well. And one of the bigger ones, I suppose, would be the franchise transfer window. How did that look from your perspective with prospective offers towards different teams?
Right after Movistar, and as soon as we knew the franchise team, I got interest from few organizations. So I decided to, let's say, put down all the offers, like all the third-party tournaments offers from the orgs that didn't make it to franchise, and I decided to fully focus on getting into franchise. But unfortunately, I didn't get my chance. I didn't get my shot. So let's say I'm starting from a little bit worse position right now because all the best offers are already behind me that I could
Yeah.
take. But I'm still looking forward to working hard in next year. And there is a next transfer window in I think May for
Yeah.
franchise, and I know what I'm like capable of, and I think it's just a matter of work at it and just work hard to if you want to get it or even qualify there
Yeah.
with your new team.
Yeah, true. I mean, there has been a real shake-up in the way that things have developed in the last year as well. And looking at the last year, I saw that you tweeted out and said that this year for you perhaps had been a failure. Which goals specifically would you set yourself for next year? Or what ambitions do you have that perhaps have changed now with regarding recent news for franchising as well?
For sure is to win the VRL, like to win the country league that I couldn't make in France, even though I was very close, and I couldn't make in Spain. So this is like my main goal. I think it's my also like personal goal is growing up as a player, not really like not letting these like losses or fails getting into my mind as much as they did, and focusing more on a game and on what's
Yeah.
let's say what's in front of me than what could be if I won something or I played somewhere better or I got a bit more lucky. Instead of thinking about like past, I'm just focusing on the future.
Yeah, it's really important to look towards the future. And I think as well, a lot of the responses you've given are incredibly mature, right? You're driven, you're looking towards the future. In terms of making those changes on the mental side as well and how you're playing in a team, what kind of contribution has working with different coaches throughout the teams that you've been a part of had on your career so far?
I think like all the coaches I had were great, and I was really enjoying working with all of them. But the one I was like pointing out the most like to other players when they were asking who can I like say was my best coach, who do I like, who do I
Who
like,
you liked working with the most, who brought the
yeah,
best
yeah,
out of you,
yeah,
perhaps?
yeah, yeah, and I think it was actually Wolax in BDS
Hmm.
because he was work instead of which is also very very good, instead of like working on my mistakes and trying to change sometimes the play style I had, sometimes maybe too aggressive
Yeah.
or so on, or maybe too passive for some people. It depends.
Yeah.
He focused him, Wolex and Max, of our analysts in BDS. They focused on like my strengths and like my communication, my firepower, and I think that's why I like performed. Let's say in this year I performed the best in BDS. And I'm not gonna put down like any other coach because all of them were great. Lucas Weber, who's working with Heretics right now,
Yeah.
Salah, who's working with Vitali, they were all great. And with all of them, I had a like bond. I had like ups and downs. But I think like the one that taught me the most was Wolex and Maxop as an analyst.
Yeah, and you said as well that you had that real bond with some of these coaches, and in a team environment as well. How important is it to have that unity between the players?
I think it's better to have 5 worse players than on the other team, but the players that actually work well with each other, they understand each other, they understand each other's strengths, they understand each other like weaknesses. I think this is like way better than having 5 superstars, let's say, whose firepower is the best in the league. It was already proven this year many times that the teams with the best firepower and the best players don't always have to win, right? And I think the bond and like how the team is working as a pack is way more important than actually the individuals.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say this as well, right? That it's about having that mentality and then also the different pieces of the machine that can work to a certain philosophy. I mean, you said it yourself. Some coaches would be better at pulling out certain aspects, your strengths of your game that, make you better as a player. So with all of this behind you, looking forward towards VRLs for next year as well, and all of this, culminating in you as a player, what is it exactly that's next for you? What are your next goals in terms of tournaments specifically, or is it just VRL next year? Is there anything in between that you're going to be looking at and focusing on?
Right now I'm doing tryouts for some teams, and I think like the next step would be known for the crowd because of the announce that when I make my decision, and the next step will be just getting in well form into VRR, starting well and trying to achieve my goal, which is winning the VRL, but also getting better as a player, as a person in game to my teammates, and just improving and making myself better version than this year.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's all looking really promising. Before we wrap it up, do you have any shout outs? I know that you've got a lot of fans in the Polish community as well. I've been there, I've spoken, I know a lot of them. Anyone particular you'd like to mention, or anything for you personally?
I will say like about Polish players, I'm wishing them all the best, and I'm cheering for all of us to make it as far as we can. And we all know we are, let's say, on different islands. Let's say every player is on a different team, but I know we have Poland is like great like opportunity, and maybe because we had already some leaks about World Cup in League of Legends, this one will also come in Valorant in a few years. We never know. I think Poland will be a very strong contender.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could, right? We'll just have to see. But thank you very much for your time, Mickey. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And yeah, that's about it.